This is another presentation by My Weight World. Exercise, creating a stretching routine. The goal of this presentation is to teach you the basic components of a stretching routine. You will learn about the benefits of stretching, a list of stretching mistakes, warming up, the elements of a good stretch, risky stretching routines, duration counting and repeating, the importance of breathing during stretching exercises, the preferred order for stretching exercises, cooling down, massage, when to stretch, stretching with a partner, sports-specific activities, stretching to increase flexibility, stretching with pain and discomfort, common causes of muscle soreness, and overstretching. Benefits of stretching. When done properly, stretching can do more than just increase flexibility. Other benefits of stretching include enhanced physical fitness, enhanced ability to learn and perform skilled movements, increased mental and physical relaxation, enhanced development of body awareness, reduced risk of joint, muscle, and tendon injury, reduced muscular tension and soreness, increased suppleness due to stimulation of the production of chemicals which lubricate connective tissues, and reduced severity of painful menstruation. Stretching mistakes. Unfortunately, many people do not always stretch properly and therefore do not reap nearly all these benefits. Some of the most common mistakes made when stretching are improper warm-up, inadequate rest between workouts, overstretching, performing the wrong exercises, performing exercises in the wrong or suboptimal sequence. In this presentation, we will try to show you how to avoid these problems and present some of the most effective methods for realizing all of the benefits of stretching. Warming up. Stretching should not be confused with warming up. It is, however, a very important part of warming up. Warming up is literally the process of raising one's body temperature. A proper warm-up should raise your body temperature by 1.4 to 2.8 degrees Fahrenheit and is divided into 3 phases. 1. A general warm-up, 2. Stretching, and 3. A sports-specific activity. The goals of the warm-up are increased awareness, improved coordination, improved elasticity and contractibility of muscles, and a greater efficiency of the respiratory and cardiovascular systems. It is very important that you perform the general warm-up before you stretch. Warming up can do more than just loosen stiff muscles. When done properly, it can actually improve performance. On the other hand, an improper warm-up or no warm-up at all can greatly increase your risk of injury from engaging in athletic activities. Note: active stretches and isometric stretches should not be part of your warm-up because they are generally counterproductive. Active stretches and isometric stretches do not help achieve the above goals because they tire the stretched muscles too much to properly perform the athletic activity for which you are getting ready. General warm-up. The general warm-up is divided into 2 parts and should be performed in this order. 1. Joint rotations. 2. Aerobic activity. Joint rotations. The general warm-up should begin with joint rotations starting either from your toes and working your way up, or from your fingers and working your way down. This facilitates joint motion by lubricating the entire joint with synovial fluid. Such lubrication permits your joints to function more easily when called upon to participate in your athletic activity. You should perform slow circular movements, both clockwise and counterclockwise, until the joint seems to move smoothly. You should rotate the following joints in the order given or in the reverse order: fingers and knuckles, wrists, elbows, shoulders, neck, trunk waist, hips, legs, knees, ankles, toes. Aerobic activity. After performing the joint rotations, you should engage in at least 5 minutes of aerobic activity such as jogging, jumping rope, or anything else that will increase your blood flow. Increased blood flow in the muscles improves muscle performance and flexibility and reduces the likelihood of injury. The stretching phase of your warm-up should consist of 2 parts: passive stretching and dynamic stretching. It is important that you perform passive stretches before any dynamic stretches in your warm-up. Dynamic stretches often result in overstretching, which can damage the muscles. Performing passive stretches first will help reduce this risk of injury. Passive warm-up stretches. Once the general warm-up has been completed, the muscles are warmer and more elastic. Immediately following your general warm-up, you should engage in some slow, relaxed, passive stretching. Begin with your back, followed by your upper body and lower body, stretching your muscles in the following order: back, sides, neck, forearms and wrists, triceps, chest, buttocks, groin, thighs, calves, shins, hamstrings, and insteps. Unfortunately, not everyone has the time to stretch all these muscles before a workout. If you are this person, you should at least take the time to stretch all of the muscles that will be heavily employed during your workout. Dynamic warm-up stretches. Once you have performed your passive stretches, you should engage in some light dynamic stretching, leg raises and arm swings in all directions. Do as many sets as it takes to reach your maximum range of motion in any given direction, but do not work to the point of fatigue. Remember, this is just a warm-up. Some people are surprised to find that dynamic stretching has a place in the warm-up, but think about it. You are warming up for a workout that will likely involve a lot of dynamic activity. It makes sense that you should perform some dynamic exercises to increase your dynamic flexibility. Sport-specific activity. The last part of your warm-up should be devoted to performing movements that are a watered-down version of the movements you will be performing during your athletic activity. The sport-specific activity is beneficial because it improves coordination, balance, strength, and response time, and may reduce the risk of injury. Elements of a good stretch. There are 3 factors you must consider when assessing the effectiveness of a particular stretching exercise: isolation, leverage, risk. Ideally, a given stretch should work only the muscles you are trying to stretch. Isolating the muscles worked by a given stretch means that you are focused only on overcoming the resistance offered by one muscle group. In general, the fewer muscles you try to stretch at once, the better. For example, you are better off trying to stretch one hamstring at a time than both hamstrings at once. By isolating a muscle you are stretching, you experience resistance from fewer muscle groups, which gives you greater control over the stretch and allows you to more easily change its intensity. Leverage during a stretch means having sufficient control over how intense the stretch becomes and how quickly it becomes intense. Good leverage will allow you to better achieve your desired intensity of the stretch, and you will not need to apply as much force to effectively increase the intensity of the stretch. This gives you greater control. The most effective stretches provide the greatest mechanical advantage over the stretched muscles. By using good leverage, it becomes easier to overcome the resistance of inflexible muscles. Many stretching exercises can be made easier and more effective simply by adjusting them to provide greater leverage. Risk. Although proper stretching can be very effective, the potential risk of injury from performing the stretch must be considered. An exercise offering great leverage and great isolation may still be a poor choice. Some exercises can simply cause too much stress to the joints, which can result in injury. The following stretches, many of which are commonly performed, are considered risky because they have a very high risk of injury for the athlete performing them. This is not to say that these stretches should never be performed. However, great care should be used when attempting any of these stretches. Unless you are an advanced athlete or are being coached by a qualified instructor, such as a certified yoga instructor, physical therapist, or professional trainer, you should probably not do them. When performed correctly with the aid of an instructor, some of these stretches can be quite beneficial. The yoga plow. In this exercise, you lie on your back and sweep your legs up and over, trying to touch your knees to your ears. This position places excessive stress on the lower back and on the discs of the spine. It also compresses the lungs and heart and makes it very challenging to breathe. This stretch is a prime example of an exercise that is very easy to do incorrectly. However, with proper instruction and attention to body position and alignment, this stretch can be performed successfully with a minimal amount of risk and can actually improve spinal health and mobility. The traditional back bend. In this exercise, your back is maximally arched with the soles of your feet and the palms of your hands both flat on the floor and your neck tilted back. This position compresses the spinal discs and pinches nerve fibers in your back. The traditional hurdler stretch. This exercise has you sit on the ground with one leg straight in front of you and with the other leg fully bent behind you as you lean back and stretch the quadricep of the flexed leg. The two-legged version of this stretch is even worse for you and involves fully bending both legs behind you on either side. This stretch is harmful because it stretches the medial ligaments of the knee and crushes the meniscus. It can also result in slipping of the kneecap by being twisted and compressed. Straight-legged toe touches. In this stretch, your legs are straight, either together or spread apart, and your back is bent while you attempt to touch your toes or the floor. If you do not have the ability to support much of your weight with your hands when performing this exercise, your knees are likely to hyperextend, which can place a great deal of pressure on the vertebrae of the lower lumbar. Furthermore, placing your legs apart creates more stress on the knees, which can result in permanent injury. Torso twists. Sudden intense twists of the torso, especially while holding weights and standing in an upright position, can tear tissue by exceeding the momentum-absorbing capacity of the stretched tissues and can strain the knee ligaments. Inverted stretches. This includes any stretch where you hang upside down. Remaining in an inverted position for too long increases your blood pressure and may even rupture blood vessels, particularly in the eyes. An inverted position is especially discouraged for anyone with spinal problems. Duration, counting, repetition. People disagree on how long to hold a passive stretch. Various sources suggest they should be held for as little as 10 seconds to as long as a full minute, or even several minutes. Many researchers recommend 30 to 60 seconds. For the hamstrings, research suggests that 15 seconds is sufficient, but it has not been definitively determined whether 15 seconds is sufficient for any other muscle group. A good common ground seems to be about 20 seconds. Children and those whose bones are still growing need not hold a passive stretch this long. Holding the stretch for about 7 to 10 seconds should be sufficient for this younger group of people. Some people like to count down the seconds while they stretch. While counting during a stretch is not particularly important, it is important to set a definitive goal for each stretching exercise. Counting does help many people achieve this goal. Many sources also suggest that passive stretches should be performed in sets of 2 to 5 repetitions with a 15 to 30 second rest between each stretch. Breathing. Proper breath control is essential to a successful stretching routine. Proper breathing helps relax the body, increases blood flow, and helps remove lactic acid and other byproducts of exercise. Take slow, relaxed breaths while you stretch. Try to exhale as the muscle stretches. Some even recommend increasing the intensity of the stretch only on the exhale, holding the stretch in its current position at all other times. The proper way to breathe is to inhale slowly through the nose, expanding the abdomen, not the chest. Hold the breath a moment, then exhale slowly through the nose or mouth. Inhaling through the nose has several purposes, including cleaning the air and ensuring the proper temperature and humidity for oxygen to transfer into the lungs. The breath should be natural, and the diaphragm and abdomen should remain soft. There should be no force of the breath. The breathing rate should be controlled by the glottis in the back of the throat. This produces a very soft sound inside the throat, as opposed to a sniffing sound in the nasal sinuses. Exhalation should be controlled in a similar manner, but if you are exhaling through the mouth, it should be more of an ah sound, like a sigh of relief. As you breathe in, the diaphragm presses downward on the internal organs and their associated blood vessels, squeezing the blood out of them. As you exhale, your abdomen, organs, and muscles and their blood vessels flood with new blood. This rhythmic contraction and expansion of the abdominal blood vessels is partially responsible for the circulation of blood in the body. Also, the rhythmic pumping action helps remove the waste products from the torso muscles. This pumping action is referred to as the respiratory pump. The respiratory pump is important during stretching because increased blood flow to the stretched muscles improves elasticity and increases the rate at which lactic acid is purged. Cooling down. Stretching is not a legitimate means of cooling down. It is only part of the process. After you have completed your workout, the best way to reduce muscle fatigue and soreness caused by the production of lactic acid from your near maximal muscle exertion is to perform a light warm down consisting of the following phases: sport-specific activity, dynamic stretching, static stretching. You want to begin your cool down with about 10 to 20 minutes of sport-specific activity, perhaps only a little more intense than in your warm-up. In reality, however, you may not always have those minutes to spare at the end of your workout. You should, however, attempt to perform at least 5 minutes of sports-specific activity as part of your cool-down. The sports-specific activity should immediately be followed by stretching. First, perform some light dynamic stretches until your heart rate slows down to its normal rate. Then perform some static stretches. Sports-specific activity followed by stretching can reduce cramping, tightening, and soreness in fatigued muscles and will make you feel better. According to HFLTA, light warm-down exercise immediately following maximal exertion is a better way of clearing lactic acid from the blood than complete rest. Furthermore, if you are still sore the next day, a light warm-up or warm-down is a good way to reduce lingering muscle tightness and soreness even when not performed immediately after a workout. Massage. Massage can play a beneficial role in both strength training and flexibility training. Massaging a muscle or group of muscles immediately prior to performing stretching or stretch exercises has the following benefits. Increasing blood flow. Massaging the muscles helps warm them up, increasing their blood flow and improving circulation. Relaxing the massaged muscles. Massaged muscles become more relaxed, which is helpful when you are about to stretch them. It can also help relieve painful muscle cramps. Removing metabolic waste. The massaging action and resulting improved circulation and blood flow help remove waste products like lactic acid from the muscles. This can help alleviate post-exercise soreness. When to stretch. The best time to stretch is when your muscles are warmed up. If they are not already warm before you begin to stretch, then you need to warm them up, usually by performing some type of brief aerobic activity. Stretching itself is an important part of warming up before and cooling down after a workout. If the weather is very cold, or if you are feeling very stiff, you should take extra care to warm up before you stretch in order to reduce the risk of injury. Many of us have our own internal body clocks or circadian rhythm. Some are morning people, while others are late nighters. Being aware of your circadian rhythm may help you to decide when it is best for you to stretch. Generally speaking, people are more flexible in the afternoon than in the morning, peaking between 2:30 p.m. and 4 p.m. Also, evidence seems to suggest that during any given day, strength and flexibility are at their peak in the late afternoon or early evening. This would indicate that you might be better off working out after work rather than before work. Stretching with a partner. When done properly, stretches performed with a partner can be more effective than solo stretches. This is especially true of isometric stretches and PNF stretches. Possible problems can occur, though, because your partner does not experience what you feel and cannot respond as quickly to any discomfort that causes you to immediately want to reduce the intensity of your stretch. Overstretching this way can increase your risk of injury. Make sure your stretching partner is someone you trust to pay close attention to you while you're stretching and to act appropriately when you signal that you're feeling pain or discomfort. Stretching to increase flexibility. When stretching to increase overall flexibility, a stretching routine should accomplish at the very least 2 goals. 1. Training your stretch receptors to become accustomed to greater muscle length. 2. Reducing the resistance of connective tissues to muscle elongation. If you are attempting to increase active flexibility, you also want to strengthen the muscles responsible for holding the stretched limbs in their extended positions. Before designing a stretching routine, you must decide which types of flexibility you wish to increase and which stretching methods are best for achieving it. The best way to increase dynamic flexibility is by performing dynamic stretches, supplemented with static stretches. The best way to increase active flexibility is by performing active stretches, supplemented with static stretches. The fastest and most effective way currently known to increase passive flexibility is by performing PNF stretches. If you are very serious about increasing overall flexibility, you will want to strictly adhere to the following guidelines. Perform early morning stretching every day. Warm up properly before all athletic activities. Make sure to give yourself ample time to perform a complete warm-up. Cool down properly after all athletic activities. Always make sure your muscles are warmed up before you stretch. Perform PNF stretching every other day and static stretching on the off days. You should expect to increase flexibility gradually. However, if you really commit to the routine above, you should be able to achieve maximal upper body flexibility within 1 month and maximal lower body flexibility within 2 months. If you are older or more inflexible than most people, it will take somewhat longer. Whatever you do, do not try to increase flexibility too quickly by forcing yourself. Stretch no further than the muscles will go without pain. Pain and discomfort. If you are experiencing pain or discomfort before, during, or after stretching or an athletic activity, you must identify the cause. Severe pain, particularly in the joints, ligaments, or tendons, usually indicates a serious injury of some sort, and you may need to discontinue stretching and or exercising until you have sufficiently recovered. Stretching with pain. If you are already experiencing some type of pain or discomfort, it is very important that you determine the cause of your pain before you begin stretching. Once you have determined the cause of the pain, you are in a better position to decide whether or not you should attempt to stretch the affected area. It is important to remember that individuals who have not stretched or exercised in a while will almost always experience some amount of soreness. However, well-trained and conditioned athletes who work out at elevated levels of intensity or difficulty also can become sore. You should cease exercising immediately if you feel or hear anything tear or pop. Remember the acronym RICE when caring for an injured body part. R is for rest, I is for ice, C is for compression, and E is for elevation. This will help minimize the pain and swelling. You should then seek appropriate professional medical advice. If you are experiencing soreness, stiffness, or some other form of muscular pain, it may be due to one or more of the following: torn tissue, metabolic accumulation, muscle spasms. Torn tissue. Overstretching and engaging in athletic activities without a proper warm-up can cause microscopic tearing of muscle fibers or connective tissues. If the tear is not too severe, the pain will usually not appear until 1 or 2 days after the activity that caused the damage. If the pain occurs during or immediately after the activity, it may indicate a more serious tear, which may require medical attention. If the pain is not too severe, then it's probably okay to perform light, careful, static stretching of the injured area. Torn fibers often heal at a shortened length, thus decreasing flexibility in the injured muscles. Very light stretching of the injured muscles helps reduce loss of flexibility resulting from the injury. Intense stretching of any kind, however, just makes the injury worse. Metabolic accumulation. Overexertion and or intense muscular activity will fatigue the muscles and cause them to accumulate lactic acid and other waste products. If this is the cause of your pain, static stretching, isometric stretching, or a good warm-up or cool-down will help alleviate some of the soreness. Massaging the sore muscles may also help relieve the pain. Vitamin C supplements also are thought to alleviate this type of pain. Muscle spasms. Exercising above a certain threshold can cause a decreased flow of blood to the active muscles. This can cause pain, resulting in a protective reflex that contracts the muscle isotonically. This reflex contraction causes a further decrease in blood flow, which causes more reflex contractions, and so on, causing the muscle to spasm by repeatedly contracting. One common example of this is a painful muscle cramp. Immediate static stretching of the cramped muscle can be helpful to relieve this type of pain. However, it can sometimes make things worse by activating the stretch reflex, which can cause further muscle contractions. Massaging the cramped muscle and trying to relax it may prove more useful than stretching to relieve this type of pain. Overstretching. If you stretch properly, you should not be sore the following day. Soreness may be an indication that you are overstretching and that you need to go easier on your muscles by reducing the intensity of your stretches. Overstretching will simply increase the time it takes for you to gain flexibility. It takes time for damaged muscles to repair themselves and to return to the same flexibility as before they were injured. One of the easiest ways to overstretch is to stretch cold, without any warm-up. A maximal cold stretch is not necessarily desirable. Just because a muscle can be moved to its limit without warming up doesn't mean it is ready for the strain a workout will place on it. Even when you stretch properly, you're going to feel some discomfort. The difficulty sometimes is discerning when it's too much discomfort. One clue is, if it hurts enough to make you say, ouch, you should ease up immediately and discontinue the stretch. You should definitely feel the tension in your muscle and perhaps even light, gradual pins and needles. Sudden sharp pain or discomfort, however, indicates you are overdoing it and are probably tearing some muscle tissue or worse. In some cases, you may follow all these guidelines when you stretch, feeling you are not in any real pain and still be sore the next day. In this case, you need to become accustomed to stretching with less discomfort. Quite frequently, the progression of sensations you feel as you reach the extreme ranges of a stretch are localized warmth of the stretched muscles, followed by a burning or spasm-like sensation, followed by sharp pain or ouch pain. The localized warming will usually occur at the origin of the stretched muscles. This feeling is your first clue that you may need to back off and reduce the intensity of your stretch. If you ignore the warming sensation and proceed to the point where you feel a definite burning sensation in the stretched muscles, you should ease up immediately and discontinue the stretch. You may not be sore yet, but you probably will be the following day. If your stretch gets to the point where you feel sharp pain, it is quite likely the stretch has already resulted in tissue damage, which may cause immediate pain and soreness that persists for several days. In summary, you now have the knowledge to build a stretching routine. You have learned the benefits of stretching, how to avoid stretching mistakes, how to warm up, the elements of a good stretch, how to recognize risky stretching routines, how long to hold a stretch, the importance of breathing during exercise, the order in which to plan your exercises, the importance of cooling down and the role of massage during cool down, the best time of day to stretch, what to look for when stretching with a partner, how to use stretching to increase flexibility, the caution signs of pain and discomfort, common causes of muscle soreness, and the dangers of overstretching. This has been another presentation by My Weight World.